Oh, pickles don't go in the bathtub.
Why do I keep dreaming about pickles in the bathtub? Captain Spock, Stardate 831123.1. Welcome aboard the Starship's Enterprise, and thank you for joining us as we take a brief shore leave from the world of CinemaSins to explore the universe of Star Trek. I'm your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me as always, her best adventures happen in a generic-looking space cave. It's Ambassador Deneé. What? That wasn't meant to be rude.
No. I didn't take it like that until now. Jesus. No, my house is the generic looking space cave, and you're not wrong. Like,
it really
I
is.
basically never leave the house. Pandemic, it's just, it revealed my true self.
Yeah. This is your final form. This is what you actually enjoy doing.
Yeah. I mean, what a horrible, horrible thing to happen to the world. And then, if there is a silver lining to it, I guess it's that groceries can be delivered.
Yeah.
My neighbors literally don't even know I exist. It's great.
That's pretty normal in England as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think America is just catching up to us. Well, happy 100 episodes of Captain's Pod.
Yeah, can we focus on what really matters? Holy shit, what are we doing?
This is episode 100, not including trailers, compilation stuff. This is, bam, episode 100. How do you feel after 100 different Star Trek adventures? You've basically seen 100 episodes now, more than you had before.
That's insane. How do I feel? I like it. I still
like Star Trek.
I still like Star Trek. I think that we've had fun with the format of the show. I love that we introduced a live element because I really look forward to, our Friday recordings and seeing the other fans that are able to join us. No shade to those of you who can't. Of course, we really appreciate you just downloading the podcast and enjoying it in its original form.
And we broadcast at an awkward time as well. So no expectations.
But I'm actually kind of more interested in what you think, because this was sort of this could be fun. Let's try it. And then it's evolving, and this is your wheelhouse. You love Star Trek, so I'm kind of more curious, like, how do you feel after hitting 100 episodes?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been so much fun. Like how it's evolved, because this was just going to be, let's cover Star Trek Picard, because it's new Star Trek that has a point of entry that a lot of TNG fans can get into. It's a good way for you to reconnect to some Star Trek. But then between seasons, we had to fill in the gaps. So
we
thought,
we decided to, because we were having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to fill in the gaps with other Star Trek. So that led us to a bit of TNG, a bit of Deep Space Nine. Then it turned a bit of Voyager, and then it turns out the rest of the team wants to talk Star Trek. So we get Jonathan and Daniel and Jeremy and Chris, and Aaron joins us, and Strange New Worlds is a big deal. So it kept on going, because it keeps being fun, and it keeps being fun to talk about, even in some of the more questionable episodes for Picard Season 2. But it's still been a great discussion to keep going. And yeah, it's been really interesting to watch you connect to stuff that I, as somebody who's watched so much of it, have forgotten about. Like, as a fresh pair of eyes on content I'm so familiar with, you unearth things that I hadn't even thought of, that's really, really fun. So it's been an education for me as well.
Well, that's cool. So are we done then?
Yeah, we're done now. We're not even going to finish Lower Decks. Episode 9 and 10, I'm really sorry. We're never going to find out what happens.
They say to leave on a high note, but I feel like there's a difference between leaving on a high note and then just like completely severing off something and like leaving it to bleed out. I think what I'm like looking forward to is, we didn't have a solid plan. Like you said, we had the Picard plan, but we sort of added in watching other things in the in-between times last minute, because our original idea was just to release a Picard podcast. But because term Captain's Pod can cover all of Star Trek.
Yeah, thank goodness we didn't call it the Picard Watch Along podcast.
Yeah, that would have, in hindsight, that was a terrible idea. But there's so much more we can do, and as new people continue to write in with their ideas of things that we could cover, and then when we have these interviews, there's a passion for the content of more things we could cover, specifically in Star Trek universe. It's kind of evident that we could easily go another 100. So here's to hoping that we can continue on for another 100 episodes. Please continue to leave feedback, however you get your podcast. If there's a chance to rate us or mention us in the forums and things like that, that's really, really helpful way for other people to find us, because we've just been growing and it's been lovely.
And don't forget, we are 10% of the way through the available Star Trek episodes. So we have got 900 left to go. Jeez. Let's go.
Oh.
Okay. We do not have time for any emails this week. We're going to dive straight into what we're covering this week, which is Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 9, The Inner Fight. What's going to happen this episode, Ambassador?
The Inner Fight? Oh my God, what if it's like that movie that my mom had me watch when I was little, where you go inside somebody's body?
Being John Malkovich?
Can you imagine my mother making me watch Being John Malkovich when I was little?
Is that the movie?
No.
Oh, okay. That would have been a guess and a half. What
Inner
movie
Space.
are we talking about?
Inner Space.
Inner Space.
It was like this quirky 80s sci-fi type movie where
I haven't even heard of
somebody
this.
gets shrunk down and put into like a syringe and plunged into someone's body, and they're like going through. My mom was a nurse, and so our conversations growing up when I got sick was all about she would have diagrams and songs about anatomy so that I could understand how the human body works. I understood antibodies when I was going into kindergarten. Like
that's awesome.
She just downloaded like that type of science to me, which is probably why I love it to this day, honestly. But anyway, this was a movie where she had me watch it. She's like, check this out. And so it's like this little shuttle spaceship looking thing just like floating through with all these red blood cells and stuff. And then there's also a bad guy that's in there too, and I think I remember them getting in the digestive juices of the stomach. Anyway, so
this is incredible. I've just Googled this film because I'd never heard of it. And you're going to love this so much. I looked at the cast to begin with.
Right, okay.
The lead character is Dennis Quaid, none other than Jack Quaid's father, who plays Boimler.
It's so funny. Oh my God.
Boimler's dad is the main character in this,
really
Lieutenant Tuck Pendleton. If this is a tie-in,
I will fucking shit my pants. I won't. I mean,
she will.
I can't. I've only shit my pants once, okay? And it was a very specific circumstance. I apologize, audience. I was wearing a diaper at the time, thankfully. I had just given birth. There's a lot of reasons.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, that's a perfect time to poop yourself. Second Star Trek connection. Robert Picardo is also in this movie. The sarcastic doctor from Voyager.
What?
He's also in this movie.
That's so fun. Okay, so
this is incredible.
I'm wondering if we should have like a old stupid 80s movie night and we should watch this one.
I think we have to cover this on the show somehow.
No, it is not in the Star Trek world. If we do that, we're going to watch so much shit that's unrelated to Star Trek.
Captain's Pod doesn't have to be Star Trek.
It does.
It's just sci-fi.
Nope.
Okay, yeah.
No, it does. Yep. Sorry, audience.
That's amazing.
I know so many of you were suddenly so excited to watch these old shitty movies.
That connection alone has blown my mind. That's great. Well, let's give us one general prediction, one specific prediction. Yes.
What was the title again?
The Inner Fight.
Okay, The Inner Fight. So this is where I went inner space, and there's this fight that happens between two shuttlecrafts in the movie. So my big prediction is that we're shrinking down and like, or we're like going inside the body somehow. We're going inside a body.
I love it.
Okay, that's my...
That 100% on brand with Star Trek as well.
And then my very specific prediction is that there's going to be some kind of robot fight. Like either like a shuttle versus shuttle or a robot versus robot, because I'm suddenly just completely... All my visuals are about this silly movie that I watched so long ago. I haven't seen it in so long. I might be completely misremembering this movie, by the way.
I mean, it's just incredible. The cast alone, that's just incredible. Well, my big prediction... Now... This has to be a reference to another TNG episode called The Inner Light. Now, I've mentioned this episode before, and this is where Picard is zapped by a probe, and he lives an entire life.
Oh, yeah.
And then it happens within 30 seconds, but he's lived like 80 years of this dying species life.
I mean, I've had this happen to me, okay?
Tell me more. How did this happen to you?
In my dreams. I have very vivid dreams. I go to sleep. I have an entire experience. Yep. I'm in a moment. I'm aging. I'm dealing with life stuff. And then I wake up and it's just like, what even is real anymore?
I guess an evening passed. Yep. I mean, I think because we saw that probe earlier in the season as well. It was episode 1 or 2. So I think somebody gets zapped by the probe and they have to live their life. I think we're gonna do some kind of take on the inner light.
Oh, we also have to consider that we're getting on towards, so this is the 9th and
Episode
there's
9.
one more, and so we might have more information about the whole attack sequence, so maybe it's involved with like their weaponry or something. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they're gonna zap the ship altogether and trap them inside the probe. My oddly specific prediction is that a lasagna will be eaten.
Like Garfield style?
No, not particularly. Just a lasagna will be eaten.
Okay. Cool.
With that, everyone, we're going to watch the episode. Thank you for downloading us over the last 2 years.
Incredible.
Here's to another 100 episodes. We will see you in 10 forward for a full debrief.
Are we walking?
Treat me, Matt. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab something from the replicator and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched together. Most important question first. What's your thing of choice?
My thing of choice?
Yes, from the replicator.
I would like to... I think I just want to have one of those blade shards.
From the rain, like the amethyst rain shard?
They're really pretty. Dangerous.
Really pretty. Quite painful. Mm-hmm. I'm glad we don't have that on Earth. No. Our weather is deadly enough as it is.
I mean, we do have some dangerous weather. Have you ever been hit by a ball of ice just falling out of the sky?
When I first came to Missouri, I was like, why are all of your cars dented? And like hail damage is a real thing over here. Like a genuine thing.
Have you ever been hit by hail?
Not your hail. I've been hit by hail, but it's like
counts.
Pea-side hail. Size hail. No, your hail is like golf ball size hail or bigger. It's insane. Wild.
Yeah. I must say that my vehicle is, I call it Swiss cheese.
Yes.
My vehicle was in a terrible hailstorm and is dented all over. It looks super bad, but because it was in such terrible shape, like it looked terrible, I got to have a pretty good discount on it. And so I opted to not have them fix it so that I could have the discount, because I guess at some point I just stopped caring about what my cars look like as long as they drive properly. Because
the insides are written off when you have a child, I assume.
Everything is just fucked. Yeah. Like, I want to have a nice vehicle, but the moment that I invited a living tiny thing in there that doesn't know how to contain herself, and then I just was like, well, let's just let the dogs in here too. And one of my dogs shit in my car. Hey, welcome to the 100th episode of Captain's Pod, where we're just talking about all kinds of stuff that's completely irrelevant.
Well, speaking of animals, I would like a venomous tremble lizard.
You do?
But only if they're facing away from me.
Okay.
I would have it on like one of those baby hammocks that like go on the front, like the kangaroo things. And it's just, it pissed me off. I flick it and then it vomits acid on you.
We both want weapons today.
Yeah.
Which is
actually,
strange.
We both want things that are pretty but are deadly.
But I feel like, you know how when you get a weasel, like a ferret or something, you can opt to have their stinky stink glands removed? Yeah. I feel like that's what you should do with this lizard. Just go ahead and have... Although its acid blood would be hard to replace.
Yeah, it would just be like hissing at everyone and nothing happens. It would feel so useless.
I love how our live chat's just like, stay on target, god damn it.
Okay, before we get into the main episode, let's do... No. Let's do general... Synopsis. Give me a synopsis.
Fuck, yes. guys, hey, we were right. The writers of Lower Decks actually want us to know about Mariner's inner dialogue and why she has been self-sabotaging. In today's episode, we are confirmed that the writers actually care about what they're doing. It wasn't just this superfluous bullshit. We get to finally kind of have a little bit of insight into her mental wackadoo-ness. Does it make sense? Doesn't matter. At least they gave it a good stab. This is a big episode where our beloved, or most of our beloved crew, we're missing Rutherford. Our little B team here goes down to a planet where all of the captured ship people have been marooned on a very dangerous planet that shoots out ice stuff. Also in this episode, if you want to be reminded that the captain does know what she's doing, you'll question it a lot. There's a tiny person puppet, but then nope, she knows what she's doing. The end.
Close. That's a pretty solid one. Yeah. Yeah.
I got so sidetracked by my dogs.
The Cerritos is sent on a mission to rescue Nick Locarno, who...
Oh, yeah, that asshole.
Ex-Federation people are being targeted by the mystery ship, and because Mariner is being so unstable, she is sent off to a different planet with half of the lower deckers to keep her distracted. Little does she know that Nick is behind it after all and is coming to get her.
And we're also teased by possible, like, 7 of 9 and Beverly in this one.
So much teasing. And Thomas
so
Riker.
much teasing.
So much teasing. So, overall, thoughts and feelings. Before we get into specifics, did you like this episode?
Yes, I did. I thought this was a good episode that needed to show us some of the evolution of where we're going in our seasonal arc. Although last episode seemed to be like a one-off, and I wondered if the whole, like, if they're in the cave and they come out and they've been attacked thing didn't happen. I really got a little too attached to that, so I was slightly disappointed this time. But yeah, overall I liked it. It was interesting to watch it and watch none of our predictions come true.
Well, let's get into the predictions. I'm glad you enjoyed the episode. So did I. I had a great time. There's a lot to talk about in this one, especially with Mariner's background. But yes, our predictions. Deneé, the episode title, In a Fight, led you to think that this might be like In a Space, which is a movie about shrinking people. So you predicted that they may shrink
inside of a body
and go inside
of a body.
Might be your most inaccurate prediction yet. Although I predict that will happen in season 5. This was not a shrinking episode, although it could have happened. Your specific prediction was there will be some kind of robot fight. I don't think there was.
Also didn't happen.
Nothing with robots happened. It's a swing and a miss. There
was a lot of fighting in this episode, but none of it was a robot. Like, there was a ton of hand-to-hand combat.
Unless we find out Mariner is an android.
It was wild.
No. Yeah, there was a lot of action. My big prediction was that this would be a spin on the Inner Light, but it was not. It had nothing to do with that episode of TNG. And my specific prediction would be that lasagna would be eaten. I did not see any lasagna.
We were so wrong.
We did terrible this week.
It was so really bad. For our 100th episode, we really fucked that up. Sorry.
We really did. Just an unexciting episode. Just skip this and go to 101. So I also didn't predict a big cameo, which is Nick Locarno. Right. You have no idea who Nick Locarno is. Did you feel lost? Did it put you off the episode? Did it still work regardless? Talk to me about that reveal.
Honestly, until right now, I thought it was funny because he was a nobody. So the fact that he is a somebody makes me kind of mad.
Oh, interesting.
Because it was like, what was funny for me, what I thought the joke was until just right this second, is that it was a string of really famous people that we know, and then just this
they
kid
get lumped
that we
with
don't.
The random.
Yeah, which would be really fun for those of us who don't know the deep digs, but we know the big names. So like when 7 of 9 and Beverly Crusher is mentioned, and then it was just like Nick. I thought that was really funny, but now it's something important. So
it would have been a great gag. Yeah. Ugh. So he appears in one episode, and it does. I think when I explain it to you, it will tie in a little bit. It will tie in quite well. So we're going to jump to Mariner's backstory. So she reveals that her kind of reason for butting up against promotions and for being so rebellious is due to a lot of trauma. And she went to the academy with somebody called Sito. Now, really, really quick, Sito has appeared in 2 episodes.
Oh, wait, of Lower Decks or?
Of TNG.
Oh, whoa.
So she went to the academy with somebody that we know from 2 episodes of TNG.
Okay.
So this episode gets really, really layered really quickly.
There is so much going on. Like when you, if you were to make this episode a layer cake, it would be one of those that somebody presents to a king and queen for a competition, and it's something that's like 5 feet deep, because there was, even in the fight scene, they're mentioning all these battles, and there's so many references in this one that I'm sure were delicious. For me, if the question is, did you still enjoy it despite that? Yes, I did.
Good. Yeah, that's what, and did Mariner, like, her explanation make sense without the knowledge of who Sito is?
I mean, it felt like somebody that's expositing why something has been bothering them, and they put the right words to it to make it make sense for me. Yeah. But I didn't even know that was a real person.
For me, it's a really, really interesting pull, because Sito is quite a deep cut, as is Nick Locarno. Nick Locarno, who's the person they're chasing, Sito Jaxa, who is Mariner's best friend, they were both in an episode called The First Duty in TNG. Basically, Wesley goes off to the academy. There is a shuttle accident where they're pulling off this ridiculous stunt. Nick Locarno tries to cover all of it up after their 4th team member dies because of a stunt that he was trying to pull off. So they go through all of this trial and whatnot, and eventually Wesley comes forward and says, I can't cover this up. We were trying to do this stunt. It's illegal, and it got this person killed. Nick Locarno steps up and takes the blame for all of it. And Sito is kind of on the edge. She's kind of like, I don't want to risk my career in Starfleet, but I also feel bad that this person died. But eventually she's like, she's going to go along with Nick Locarno and go along with the lie. Nick, when he knows he's going to be found out, takes full responsibility, and everyone else is allowed to continue in Starfleet, but Nick gets expelled, puts him on the path that we see him in now. A year later, Sito appears on the Enterprise as an ensign. She's graduated from the academy, and Picard brings her in and basically says, I don't think you should be on this ship. After what happened in the academy, I don't think you're worthy of this. Get out of my face.
Oh, man. I don't want to be in that room.
Awkward. It is in his captain's ready room, and he's just like, dismissed. Get out of my face. I don't want you.
He kicks her off?
Leave. No, just get out of my room. She's allowed to carry on. She's allowed. So the episode is called Lower Decks, which is really, really, really cool. So it follows 3 or 4 people that are gunning for a promotion, and Sito is one of them.
Okay.
And they're all trying to impress Riker and whatnot. And Picard's basically like, you're not going to progress on this ship because of the shit that you pulled at the academy. You're not worthy of the uniform. Get out. By the end of the episode, he was actually trying to test her character and see if she would progress no matter what, and whether that would be the thing that said,
Yikes.
I quit, I'm out, or if she would continue, because she's a Bajoran and there is a specific mission that Starfleet needs her to go on, but only if she's really strong of character. So he's like, you stood up to me, you accepted my beatdown, I think you're good enough to go on this really dangerous mission.
Okay.
Anyway, long story short, she goes on the mission and dies.
Now, Mariner mentioned that she went on the mission as a spy, and that she didn't join Starfleet to be a spy. She joined Starfleet to study plants and stuff.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, she was inspired to do the science and to do the puzzles, and then straight out of the academy, basically the first mission her best friend goes on gets her killed, and then a few years after that, the Dominion War happens, and it's suddenly not about exploration, it's about sending people to die. So she doesn't want to get promoted because that means sending your friends off into war and to getting killed and whatnot. And yeah, Picard sends Sito off to get killed because it's part of the job.
Ooh, okay. So Mariner in today's episode is basically saying that the entire time that she's been sort of in Starfleet, she's been wrestling with the fact that her friend that she like looked up to and sort of fashioned herself after was told by her superiors to go do this thing, and then she ends up dying. And now she is the superior that has people underneath her, and she's going to make these calls, and they're going to die, and it's kind of messing with her psyche.
Yeah, and really she just wants to do the puzzles and shit. And the Klingon is like, you don't get the puzzles and shit unless you make those hard choices as well.
So she would rather put herself in danger or spiral out than ask other people. So like, because in today's episode, we see her, instead of working with her team, she's running out into danger, solving things, because maybe in her mind, it's like, I'd rather just die and get this over with than have to face the fear of being a leader is essentially kind of what I'm getting.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it, and I really like that as a reason. And it's really, I don't know why I didn't see it coming. The episode is called Lower Decks. So Mariner is friends with two of the original Lower Deckers that were ever named on TNG, Nick Locarno and Sito Jaxa. It's such a clever tie-in.
Well, I love that about this show, because this show has this it continues to show such a deep care and respect for the material. So it's not a surprise that you'll see fun references, but then whenever it's a deep tie-in, and in this case, it's a deeper tie-in because we're talking about Mariner's crutch. We're talking about like, earlier in this particular, run of episodes we're doing for the show, we talk about character flaws being written into different characters and how important it is that when you design a character, there are flaws. So that you don't win every scenario, because it's hard to relate to somebody who wins all the time. And in this case, you have Mariner, who has been self-sabotaging, but it hasn't made a lot of sense to us. So to make her crutch and her issues tied into something that's so deep in the history of Star Trek that fans can really sink into, that's really special. What a great show.
It's really, really special. It's so, so clever. And that doesn't stop with Nick Locarno either, because Nick was originally going to get a redemptive arc and be Tom Paris in Voyager, because it's the same actor. So Robert Duncan McNeil was Nick Locarno first in TNG in this episode. But I think the writer who wrote that episode wasn't associated anymore, and they would have had to pay royalties to keep using that character. So they renamed him Tom Paris, gave him a really similar backstory where he ended up in prison, and this was redemptive arc for brand new Tom Paris instead of Nick Locarno.
Weird.
We've had a bit of a back and forth with some live fact-checking in the chat as well, and it feels like the consensus overall, and coming from Robert Duncan McNeil himself, is that it was It was more about the fact that Nick Locarno was irredeemable, having killed a student and was trying to cover it up. That was too much to come back from. So it's not the royalties thing. It's more like, let's start fresh with a character that has some misdemeanor problems and didn't actually kill a kid, which I get. And that's how Tom Paris was born.
I think, first of all, I'm not following any of this, but thank you for going into it.
It's fair.
I like the idea that Starfleet has some standards, but that like as people, we want to think that we are redeemable after making terrible, horrible mistakes like that. But then at the same time, I'm just rewatching in my imagination all of the terrible, horrible things that people have done on this like entire civilizations have fallen, but that's okay for Starfleet. But like, it's got to just make sense for how it makes sense.
Doing some evil Knievel stuff.
Either way, what I'm learning is that this character has a backstory to a backstory to a backstory, and that's really fun.
It's really interesting, regardless, to bring him back and develop upon it. Okay, now that we've got through the big business of it, I mean, personally, I love that we got through the Mariner stuff. I think that makes so much sense for me. I almost wish we got there sooner, because that informs so much for me about why Mariner acts the way that she does and how she butts up against it. Like, I've been scratching my head for the last 2 years. Like, are we just writing this in a circle? And this is it's a great resolution for me. I really, really, really enjoy it. And it's one of those things where I think I'm going to enjoy previous episodes even more, because I know I understand where it's coming from so much more. Yeah,
it was a little distracting to me because she was self-sabotaging so intensely. But it is nice to know that there's a reason. And maybe if I'm understanding this episode, she's kind of come to her own a conclusion that she can move on from it, and how funny that it came from a Klingon battle.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's such
beautiful
a Mariner
that
thing.
The therapy comes from a Klingon. Like, she is a Klingon at heart. She really is.
From an actual life and death situation, it took that for her to have a turnaround. And honestly, in real life, I think that's really normal that you have a brush with death or a resignation that, because until she knew that her quote unquote secret or her not sharing her truth, because she wasn't telling anyone else this, she only said out loud like her personal trauma out loud, because she thought that either that person was going to die or she was going to die. So she was in a situation where there wasn't really anything to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that Klingon battles can be put on pause due to constrained territories, but you know what? They can
in this episode.
They can sometimes, and that's okay.
That's fine.
But yeah, I'm glad that this part is kind of done, and this meaningful part of her development is done. And I wonder if for future seasons, if that means that she's ready to lead, because clearly she's good at it. You know, she rallied the entire planet together at the end to unify multiple races who all hated each other for a common goal and a common cause. And
she was the leader in Caves as well. Like, she's the best leader of all of them in a lot of ways. What's interesting for me is what happens next. Like, does Mariner now talk about this with Miggly Moo? Does she address it with her mother? Does she talk to her lower deckers? Because the only person that knows is this Klingon.
Yeah.
So the show could, well, let her continue as she has been continuing and not mention it again, and just we the audience and this random Klingon know, or does she talk to Boimler and everyone else about it?
Yeah, it's something that I'm okay with whatever they decide to do. I don't know that I mind that it took until now to sort of have the revelation, because the pacing of each episode I've enjoyed so much that I kind of think it makes sense in this moment to reveal her purpose, because it makes sense. Now, you bringing it up first, like as we're doing the recap of today's episode, and you kind of bring this part to the forefront, was this the big thing for you in this episode? Her the tie to actual true lower decks? Like, when you think about this episode, is that what you're going to be thinking about? Because for me, I would have never thought about that. Of
course not. And that's probably one of my critiques, is that those layers are in 2 very old episodes of Star Trek, and those layers will be quite easily missed unless you do some Googling, and if you're new to the show. But this is where Lower Decks is skirting that line of being self-referential and welcoming, and also like doing the real deep cuts. Like, yes, that is the thing that I'm going to think about in this episode, especially with Nick Locarno being present. If it wasn't Nick Locarno and it was just Sito, then I guess, okay, cool, that's a good way to explain Mariner. But Locarno was there with them as well. Like, he was adjacent to this adventure with Sito back at the Academy. So the fact that he's picked up Mariner specifically, that entire Lower Decks thing is what I'll think about most in this episode for sure.
Well, that's interesting, because obviously I won't.
Yeah, no, of course.
I mean, now that I have, not everybody has their own little pocket Wikipedia buddy. My little tricorder dude that I can go, tell me what am I missing, and then you're like, here's the backstory that you're missing. So not everybody gets to have that while watching the show. I really, I feel like such a broken record with this show, but it really takes such an. The writers are just so good because
yes,
because it didn't take away from me. I had a fun time watching Mariner kick ass this episode. Awesome. I had a fun time wondering what was going to happen when the team woke up and realized that Mariner was gone. You know, I was just enjoying watching what I was watching. Like, and also it's pretty obvious that this episode is a chunkier setup for the close of the story. Next episode, not surprising at all that this is kind of a 2-parter where there's a to be continued at the end, because there's a lot going on. And sure, some of it seemed a little bit silly and forced, but it was really, really fun too. I mean, the fighting was my favorite part. When I think about this episode, I think I'm going to be remembering that this episode had so much hand-to-hand combat.
So much hand-to-hand combat. It was insane. So let's get into that, because in this episode, on one planet, we have the amalgamation of all of the aliens that have been kidnapped. and zapped and transported by Nick Lucano and his ship. Klingons, Romulans, Ferengis, Cardassians, Orions, and Bynars and humans all on the same planet, and a Vulcan with T'Lyn. I mean, yeah, that's the big aliens. Like, that's all of them from Star Trek. You're missing Andorians maybe, but like they threw every alien into the soup on this planet and into hand-to-hand combat. It's kind of cool. It's kind of like Mike McMahon went to the writers and said, just go ahead and do it. I know you want to have them all here.
I know you
just
wanna.
fuck it up. Go on. Because you've got to be careful with that, because you can animate whatever you want. So you can throw in everybody. I mean, you stick a Borg in there and then you really do have all of them. But
yeah. Borg was mentioned
fun.
this episode.
And I actually think, yeah, I think it was done really well, because it makes sense with the rest of the season how they've been picked off and transported here. We still don't know why, I think. We still don't know why.
Nope, I don't think so. I think we know that there was somebody who was whispering mutiny into every
because that Ferengi was in on it.
Yeah, there was something that was mentioned like, oh, that's how it happened on my ship too. So obviously Nick, behind it all, has somehow kind of gotten into the ear, likely through this planet that we saw today, which was sort of the rebel planet, the ruleless planet, which I rather enjoyed that as well. So you have this sort of conglomeration of references that I, as a nerd, assume you were just really, really enjoying. For me, I enjoyed it too. It's really fun to see all the different characters and races together. But it made sense, in my mind at least.
Yeah, I agree.
They were fighting for resources. Like, we didn't have to see all of the build up to that. It's just they've been there the whole time. And they did a good job of showing us visually that there was, really not crude weapons, but like crude weapons. Yeah, they're just primitive. They're primitive. They're just surviving. They're like fighting over resources, and their clothes are tattered and that sort of thing. That made sense to me. And it was fun. It was fun and it made sense. And we had a lot of adventure. There was a lot of momentum in this episode. Yeah. From the shuttle that was being chased by a decloaking warbird. Like, that was so fun to watch, right?
Oh, it's so pretty.
It was so
just
pretty.
The Klingon ship flying and chasing the shuttle and then going into the planet. Even the Cerritos drop out of warp, zoom in on the Cerritos flyby. They've animated this show beautifully.
It's so pretty.
We keep saying it. It's so pretty.
Well, they even when the Cerrito burrito kind of like shifted away to go towards the moon, it just looks really, really not everything. Or the pretend ship that was like from the bounty, quote unquote, bounty hunter, that looked so fucking badass, by the way. Oh. That whole sequence, I was like, ooh, who's that person? Whoa.
Oh, it's so fun. And I was trying to like nitpick why all of these aliens are on the same planet, and I'm like, man, this is gratuitous. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because
they've all been kidnapped.
Makes sense why they're all here. So play with your toys. You've done the setup. Mm-hmm. Now you get to have fun with it. And it's just really, really, really well done.
Yeah. So I think when I look back on the episode, I'll probably remember the fighting more than I'll think of anything else. And of course, Mariner, sort of her revelation, that's what will kind of stand out to me. But it obviously is still doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the culmination of this entire season's arc of this great mystery. So my next question to you is, how did you feel about, so you've got Captain standing in front of this, the ship schematics.
We'll be talking schematics if I correct your pronunciation of schematics.
Sea captains. There's a picture of it that the guy drew. And we're looking at that. And so the captain is realizing, oh shit, this is the person behind everything. I mean, obviously it's a sin for that person to leave behind any evidence anyway, but.
Oh, of course. What in the minimalist deck is this?
That was really fun.
So good.
What do you think Nick wants with Mariner? Is it that he didn't want her? I assumed that she was doing such a great job of rallying people that he's like, I can't risk having this person down there. And then just kind of zipped her out.
We've got to listen to his last line, which is, me and you are going to cause some trouble. Like, my instinct is that he's still bitter about being shipped off out of Starfleet, and that his goal is to destabilize the quadrant. But we've seen that story before, and he's kidnapped. I mean, we don't see their ships, so he's kidnapped everybody, and he has their ships. So I wonder if it's like a false flag thing where he's going to send these ships to attack certain places and create this huge galactic war, to create more of a lawless society throughout the galaxy that mirrors the planet that he's hanging out on. Like, maybe he wants to destabilize everybody so that he can live a bit more freely, I guess. I don't know. I kind of hope it's something deeper than that.
Yeah, I'm really curious. You know, Mariner's done such a fantastic job for so many reasons. I think it's going to be interesting to see that she just had this revelation about her rebelliousness and her fearlessness in putting herself in danger because she didn't have anything to lose. She has this revelation, and then she's put right in front of the person that could be maybe the most tempting, I suppose. But I feel like she also had didn't she start off with that archaeologist that was like, you don't want to work for Starfleet, and so she wasn't working for Starfleet for a hot minute. This was the
end of season 3. She left Starfleet and left with the archaeologist, but then the archaeologist was up to no good. So she was like, oh, I guess I'm back.
Yeah. So she does have something that she said she loves Starfleet, and
she does. Yeah, she wants to be there.
I'm curious what she'll do and the perception. I feel like they're going to really lean onto the perception that Mariner is being rebellious and blowing things up, but then she has to like prove that she wasn't really doing it the whole time kind of vibe. But I'm really excited for the final one. I always get nervous for finales though, because
there can be a lot.
They're kind of set up, but there's a lot to cover too. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm really excited for it. I think it's clever to bring Nick back as a path that Mariner could have accidentally gone down, and maybe I imagine that she'll see parts of herself in him and realize, I actually like the Starfleet bits. I like the structure that Starfleet has given me. I like the structure that Starfleet gives the universe, and that we're not here starting wars. We're here trying to prevent them. It's not our fault that wars keep happening.
It's not every day that you get to watch such a purposeful crafting of a character, and I think the animation as a medium really lends itself to this sort of thing, because you get to be really intentional in a different kind of a way than with the acting, asking for live action and things like that. But you have potentially here the writers going, hey, if we're going to make Mariner the captain of all captains, it's got to make sense. So she has to come to some kind of a personal revelation that her rebelliousness is done, and she needs to meet face to face what that is. What does that look like? Ah, man, I just wish I was in the writer's room with those, because
oh my goodness,
to think that Nick is going to be part of that, tied into the lower decks, like you said, it really is just juicy.
It's so juicy.
What else do you want to cover from this episode, though?
So I think we should do more about the B plot, which I guess it's the B plot. This is on like the criminal planet. I really liked how they say that it's lawless and it's full of criminals, but their expectations are kind of subverted as well, because they have more order than you'd expect. Like, they have waiting lists and they have like their own society.
That was so funny.
It's just not like Starfleet. And it kind of seems that the captain gets caught out by that, but she's actually in on it.
Yeah, that was really, really fun.
Yeah.
I see that your wait just got 30 minutes longer.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it was very clever planet. It is fun to see that the captain, who you can make assumptions is going to be the bumbling captain that doesn't actually know what she's doing, but then she's really, really smart. I love that they do that. I always find it interesting that the captain will keep key people out of the loop, though. I suppose just so that they're genuinely surprised and genuinely annoyed. It lends itself that what was the guy in the mask?
Oh, he's the chief engineer.
What's his name again? Do you remember? Billups. Yeah.
Billups.
So it's Billups all along. I was sort of hoping it was going to be somebody else, but I don't know who it would have been.
7 of 9. Like, actually deliver on mentioning 7 of 9 and then bring her in.
I know, they mentioned Beverly twice. There's, and Boimler dreams about tap dancing with her.
Oh, it was so fun. And you've seen that episode. You've seen the tap dancing one.
I actually wrote down, like, I understood that reference.
I understood that reference. A reference that I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have got, it slayed me, was the puppet, that the alien that she thinks is a puppet but isn't a puppet.
Yeah,
so
I had
what's
no idea.
Great is that this is a Balok or Balok. I can't remember the pronunciation. It's this big old alien head, and in one of the episodes of TOS, they come into contact with this alien, and they communicate via the view screen, and it's this really, really scary alien. By the end of the episode, an alien that looks like a tiny baby, but obviously talks like an adult, and they use that puppet alien to intimidate people. And it's like, well, nobody will take me seriously unless I have this alien thing. So she remembers that and assumes that this is a puppet and starts slamming it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's clearly a puppet. And it's not. It's the actual alien.
I thought it was a puppet too.
It's so good.
And I should have known better because it's so heavy-handed.
Yeah, because the head spins around.
And then you've got like the smoke coming out, and it's sort of like this staccato vocalization, where it's kind of like cutting in and out a bit. And
it's so great.
I thought, oh, this is really on the nose. This is like the man behind the curtain Wizard of Oz situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as she picks it up, I thought something doesn't feel right. And then she just starts beating it.
As soon as she picked it up.
I felt so bad for laughing so hard.
But it's so funny because this alien is just like, what are you doing to me? Stop it. Like, stop beating me. And it's so great because that alien head is in the closing credits of TOS. They would do like some flashing pictures, and that alien head is always there. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's so great because as soon as she picked him up and there's no alien there, I'm like, oh no, this is the OG, this is the one. And it's so brilliant. It's got
the little chair that was there.
Oh, and his tiny little arms. They get all of the proportions right. Like, this isn't an alien that was invented.
No.
This is an alien that was copied.
Yeah.
It just adds an extra layer to the canon. It's so great.
He's got all the internal organs just all up in there.
It's so, and he's just so sad. He's like, look at you, Starfleet. You think you can walk in here and just pick up anyone you want?
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I love it.
Although I was most interested in our A plot, which is not surprising at all because I love our characters, and it was nice to see T'Lyn again, honestly.
Yes.
When she does like the Vulcan pinch and such, and then she kind of like gives a little shade to Mariner about like, yeah, I know you were going to try to help out, but
yes.
It's what a wonderful way to just remind the audience that everyone is fully capable on their own. It's just Mariner is not using them to their full advantage because she's got her own stuff that she's working on.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. Yeah. Anything else that stood out to you? Any questions? Anything you loved before we do some sinning?
No, I think we covered everything. I really enjoyed visually. I thought it was fun. There was some laughs, and I think we're ready to move on to the sins of the show.
Love it. Yeah, really, really fun. What a great episode. Again, it's been a great season. Let's over to engineering for some sins. Battle stations, everyone.
Warning. Warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sin brains, remind ourselves that no TV shows without sin, even our beloved Star Trek. Go first, Ambassador.
Well, today I get to drop some knowledges.
Do it.
So I learned something on a script recently because my writing partner had this sin.
Nice.
That apex predator, like the idea. I said apex predator, didn't they? That isn't a sin. I just realized it.
This has been a great journey. I'm happy to take it with you.
So the sin that I'm talking about was about the alpha of a pack, which is different than an apex predator.
To the apex predator, correct.
But because I was writing down my notes so fast, because we're doing it all in the moment, I just realized that the show said apex predator, not alpha. So yeah,
correct.
But the knowledge is that alpha of a pack is actually a myth. Just so you know.
In all cases.
I mean, so there's no like alpha wolf.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That's it. They've been able to basically say this isn't really a thing. There's no
one leader.
There's no one leader that then fights another leader for the leadership position. They're more like a family.
Interesting. Well, I trust scientists that have watched this more than I have.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting thing to learn. But now it's completely unrelated to this episode, and I apologize.
But we're going to keep it in because we educate people. Exactly. My first sin was Mariner should be fired for making that guy lose an eye. Like, she's so careless and he loses an eyeball because of it.
Are they just going to regenerate one? Is this like okay, so if someone dies in a shuttle accident, you can't bring them back from that, so that's like it. But if it's like a limb situation, then it's okay?
I mean, either way, he still goes through the pain and trauma of losing an eyeball. Either way, it happened. Whether you have the eye or not, that hurts, I would imagine.
Well, it just feels like that's more of a we prefer this not to happen situation.
I don't know even if I know my eyeball can be grown back, if somebody results in my eyeball being lost, I will be mad at them.
Right, but it's just part of the job.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think Mariner being a dick is part of the job.
Ironically, it's very similar to the situation where her buddy got killed because somebody, made a call. She made a call and somebody lost an eye.
Nobody was consenting to her call, though. Sito agreed. Nobody agreed for Mariner to pull that shit. Mm-hmm. She should be in trouble.
My next one is the idea that the reveal at the end that the person in the mask wasn't really a bounty hunter could have been done on the ship out of not quite so in the open. Like, cool, you use the biases against, you use everyone's bias against Starfleet to your own advantage. Good on you, Captain. Maybe just go inside to do the reveal with the helmet.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're kind of... This is immediately exposing your plan when you think the plan has been completed. It's like, no, it can still go sideways. Man, the show... nearly delivered on one of my predictions, which was that Mariner is going to have to deal with Miglimoo and actually go through some therapy. And I was like, how are we going to take Miglimoo seriously when he's been the butt of so many jokes and he's just vomiting? Like, I won't eat that unless it's been regurgitated by my mother. But then her mother is just like, we don't have time for therapy. Take her away. I'm like, what do you mean? If you are that concerned, relieve her of duty, put her through therapy. This plan to use so many resources to distract her while you take the ship on its actual mission, it's insane. You are basing your command decisions on insanity.
Yeah. And then you have the sin of the convenience that the little relay thing that they're fixing happens to be right above the planet where all of the captured people happen to be. And there happens to be a Romulan or a Klingon ship that just happens to be able to see them. It was a very convenient situation.
She gets sent to the one place that they were actually trying to get to find Locarno. And this is just a random side mission. The coincidence is unbelievable,
but at the same time believable, because there's people who have actual moments in time of just being in the right place at the right time, and it is so strange how it always works out that way.
TV,
but we'll
you
still
don't
sit
get
it.
that. Yeah, on TV you don't get that pass because you wrote it that way. When the universe does it, it's random, it's coincidence.
Right.
When you write it, it's because you wrote it.
Yeah. Okay.
Your turn.
Oh no, I just said the convenient planet. It's back to you.
Oh, okay, cool. That's all it's so convenient.
It's
dissing
so convenient.
therapy, ignoring therapy, and then convenient planet is convenient. Character says something embarrassing while sleeping, cliche. Beverly, teach me how to tap dance. Just the second that Mariner happens to be walking over him. Yeah.
Can I tell you a quick story that's completely unrelated to our podcast?
Always.
Okay. So we were hanging out last year, like you were visiting last year sometime, right? Mm-hmm. And it like our whole families, all of us were together, and I think you pretended to fall asleep, and Iris was there.
Yeah.
And you did the cliche thing where you say something out loud.
Yes.
And you said something like, pickles don't go in the bathtub. So like your eyes are closed, you're pretending to be like, pickles don't go in the bathtub, and you said something
pretending
funny like
I'm
that.
Sleep talking. Yeah.
Iris, my daughter, thought that it was so funny. She still does that to this day. So
it's like 18 months later.
It's like we're in bed. It's time to go to bed, and she's like calming down, and we're like snuggling up, and I'm like, okay, baby, it's time to go to sleep. Close your eyes, and she'll go, oh, pickles don't go in the bathtub.
I love that she'll have that memory and eventually not realize where it came from. She's like, why do I keep dreaming about pickles in the bathtub? She thinks that shit is hilarious, though. It's so great.
God.
The stuff that they latch onto is so fun. That's amazing. Do you have a sin that isn't me making up stuff that makes your daughter laugh?
No, I don't. And I'm tempted to go to the how many more do you have, I guess is the question.
I've got one more.
Okay.
We have a Deus Ex Tendinina when Mariner is basically like, I'm a pacifist now, I'm not going to fight you. They all run in and Tendi jumps out at that second. We would try and merge a Deus Ex Tendinina. Deus Ex Tendinina?
Deus Ex. Well, we should just call her like the Moon Princess or whatever she is.
Yes, Deus Ex Moon Princess. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my main one. And then
No, I'll do it from the chat.
Okay, go for it.
Because this one's from David Ellis, who says, Sin, when did the Klingon blood go back to Pepto-Bismol pink? It was red all through TNG.
It's amazing. In the Undiscovered Country, they introduce purple blood for Klingons for some bizarre reason. They ignore it for all of TNG. And then some side canon reason was that the Klingon royal family has purple blood and the regular Klingons don't. But I don't think that's the case in this case, unless they're all royal Klingons. But it could just be a genetic thing. It seems weird. Apparently it's because their blood is based not on hemoglobin like ours or something like that.
Back to you.
Oh, back to me. I don't have any more. I just got really fixated on how coincidental it is that Mariner gets sent away to the very place that they don't want her to be sent to, and they had no idea about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of sins that are left over in the chat, so we will get to those later. Do you ever include those in the outtakes?
I do. I include some, yeah.
Okay. So then there might be some extra bonus sins in the outtakes.
Extra sins. There's definitely trick or triction in the sins. This week, it's future No, it's not. That was last week. This week, it's A Matter of Time with... Deneé, do you remember the name of the main character in this trick or triction?
Scoobop Smegoobelin?
Nope. Berlinghoff Rasmussen.
It sounds like a medication. It sounds like Robitussin or something. Like it's something that will put you to sleep.
Yeah, Berlinghoff Rasmussen.
Try some Berghoff Rasmussen before bed.
Berlinghoff Rasmussen is amazing. Right, well, happy 100th episode, everybody. I'm sorry it didn't line up with the actual finale of Lower Decks. We were one episode short.
Hey,
what you gonna do?
It's fine.
What you gonna do? Thank you for sticking with us for 100 episodes and hopefully 100 more. You can find us at all of the regular places, like on Twitter at CaptainsPodCS. You can email us, captainspod@cinemasins.com. We have a Discord. It's discord.gg/cinemasins. We go live almost every Friday at 12:30 CT on twitch.tv/cinemasins live, on the YouTube CSPN channel where all of these videos are archived. You can go and have a look, and we're trying to go live on Twitter as well and on Deneé's channel. We will see you all next week, and until then, I'm Captain Ian, and I'm out of here because my adrenaline ran out 2 panics ago.
And what in the minimalist hell from...
Live long and Podsper.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
I could say something interesting, but instead I'm going to fuck around on my phone until Deneé gets here. Did your parents, ever do this annoying thing where they waited until you were, grown up, moved out, and gone before getting the cool stuff? Because my parents messaged me a load of pictures this last week of some cool decorations that are outside the house, inside the house. This skeleton that has different voice lines and it lights up. And they're like, how cool is this? And I'm like, would it have been cool when I was 12? They have this freedom and extra money because they're not spending it on a kid enjoy life. And I'm like, I was really a burden, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And I guess you've got both sides of this with Iris. It's a constant thing of, this is really, really cool, but I got to say no.
All the time. She has great things. She wants to buy amazing things. If I take her to the store, she'll see something and she's like, can I have it? Can we have that? We could do this. That'd be so neat. Oh, Mom, why? And I'm like, because I'm fucking poor, child.
Right, because of you. And it made me laugh so much because you have the coolest shit now that I'm not in your life. Okay, trick or triction time. Choose your course. That's not how this works. The title is A Matter of Time. The premise of the episode. While trying to help a planet that is suffering from an environmental disaster in the shape of an asteroid, the Enterprise detects a temporal disturbance and changes course to investigate. They find an unidentified ship containing somebody that wishes to beam aboard. This someone happens to be a time traveler from the future called Berlinghoff Rasmussen.
I'm sorry. Wait, this is the part of the show that
this
is true, right? Okay.
This is all true.
Berlinghoff Rasmussen.
Berlinghoff Rasmussen, and he has a special mission for the USS Enterprise.
Is it to rename him?
Right? What happens next? Is it A, time agent Berlinghoff Rasmussen has been sent from the 26th century to prevent the birth of a galactic dictator who history says was born on Penthara 4, the planet that the Enterprise is currently trying to rescue. After proving he is who he says he is, Picard has to make some tough decisions about whether he should save millions of lives on the planet now or protect trillions of lives from a dictator in the future. B. Professor Berlinghoff Rasmussen has come from the 26th century as a historian to observe and survey the crew of the famous Enterprise D. He insinuates that the rescue mission to Penthara 4 is a pivotal moment in history, but refuses to say why, which causes Picard and the crew to second-guess every decision they make.
A.
I stumped you! Yay!
Yay!
It isn't! This week, it's actually B. So talk us through your logic.
I was right on the verge of saying B, and I now wish that I would have followed my second instinct. But my first thing was, there was this one little thing, like, after proving who he said he was, and I was like, that's a really important key moment in this episode, is you don't just immediately believe the time traveler.
Yeah, of course.
You take a minute to be like, tell me something that
I wipe out this planet.
I like that particular detail. But the wiping out of the planet is a pretty big deal, and I felt like it was a problem that Star Trek tries to solve. Of
course.
But it also felt a little bit Loki to me. So that should have been my other hint that it was you, is because we're currently watching Loki.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
And it very much had a, we need to stop this person from being in the sacred timeline vibe.
Yeah, no, that's... So, oh my God, I didn't even... It's he who should not be named, or he who remains.
Yeah, he who remains, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, I subconsciously must have done that. That's so interesting.
I knew better. I shouldn't have done it. God damn it, I've been stumped.
Part 2. What happens next? A.
If it sounds at all like something from Loki.
Well, now I'm second guessing everything. A. While Rasmussen interviews the crew one at a time and gets everyone to fill in surveys relating to their fields of expertise, Geordi comes up with a dangerous plan that could save Penthara 4 from a deadly ice age. But if his calculations are off, it will instead vaporize the planet's atmosphere. Picard, please. It's always like one or the other, isn't it? Save the day, vaporize atmosphere. Picard pleads with Rasmussen as somebody from the future to help him make the right decision and save the planet. But Rasmussen refuses and will not violate the Temporal Prime Directive. B. While the crew are working on a plan to save Penthara 4, Rasmussen becomes obsessed with Data in particular, asking him about his lifespan, his abilities, and how he feels about mortality, and why he chose to, quote, waste his abilities in Starfleet. Data obsesses over this and assumes that his current path means that he won't survive until the 26th century, and resigns from Starfleet to protect Dr. Soong's legacy. What's your thought process?
Well, first of all, congratulations. You have been tweaking this one really well.
Yes!
Okay, where is this at in the series? Is this like what season, what episode? Like where are we? Is this the end of the seasons, the beginning? Because that might help me make a decision if this is like a cliffhanger.
This is season 5, episode 9.
So tell me about like how this vibes. Is it middle? Because there's 20 episodes, so it's like middle.
23 episodes per season usually. This is around about the middle.
Well, then it's going to be A.
Yes, it is A. Correct. Okay, talk me through that. How'd you get to A?
Because Data's not going to resign.
But he has resigned, and then they resolve it by the end of the episode.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. I mean, I was really close to picking that one too, because
nice.
It just seemed like it makes sense for stuff that we see in Picard later, that they might pull an episode and say somebody is really obsessed with an AI. And, like what happens in the future with AI technology, and maybe he's just like super obsessed because he's just on a mission to find information.
Yeah, and the fact that he's obsessed means that Data doesn't exist in the 26th century.
It doesn't, though. It doesn't. Like in my mind, it's like Data maybe made the wrong assumption, and he's just getting information so that they can... Like I wouldn't have assumed that Data wasn't around. I would have just assumed that there was an interest there. So...
That's cool.
Yeah, but it makes sense that there would be... that there would be a like, okay, but if I'm a calculation off, everybody dies.
Always. He's like, if I'm 1 degree off, I vaporize the atmosphere instead of saving them.
The other way that I would have likely gotten to A is that in the introduction stuff, you said that he was there because something was going to happen with the planet, and your option didn't include anything about the planet. It included data.
Nice. And that is the little thing that I put in there, because I was like, suddenly we take a right turn into focusing on data in his career. What happened to the planet stuff? That's what I was hoping you'd latch onto. Nice.
Clever, Ian. That's stumpery. I do have a question, because in A, you said like refuses to, go against the Prime Directive, but yet he's there to interview them. So isn't that just him being there?
Mm-hmm. And the crew, Picard is like, "Why are you here?" And he says, I'm allowed to be here. It doesn't interfere with anything. It's okay. Don't worry. I'm fine, but I can't tell you anything. Part 3. After failing to convince Rasmussen to help him make the decision, Picard meets with the leader of Penthara 4 and ultimately recommends Geordi's dangerous plan. While risky, he believes it's the best chance of success. At this point, Rasmussen steps in and reveals himself to be a Q. Not our Q, but another Q who has heard about the Enterprise through the Q that we know and wanted to put them to the test himself. He clicks his fingers and repairs the planet, revealing that Geordi's plan would have vaporized the planet, but not to worry, he's also the one that sent the asteroid. So all of it was a setup.
Don't worry, I also fucked that up too.
B. Picard decides to go with Geordi's plan despite the risk. Ultimately, Geordi's plan works and the planet is saved, and Rasmussen congratulates the crew and makes his way back to his time ship. However, Picard and the crew have discovered that Rasmussen has been stealing things as he conducted his interviews. He has stolen a phaser, a tricorder, and some technical schematics. Picard demands that he returns them. Rasmussen holds Data hostage with a phaser said to kill and reveals that he is actually an inventor from the 22nd century, and a historian from the 26th century visited him and he killed him and stole his shuttle. His plan was to take the inventions back in time and invent them gradually. However, he did not realize that the computer deactivated the phaser and he's easily apprehended.
Okay, just a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Can computers deactivate phasers?
Yes.
Since when?
They can deactivate their own phasers. Actually, no, the computer can deactivate any phaser it wants. Like, when it beams somebody aboard, it will deactivate their weapons.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not something the show remembers either, a lot of the time.
Which is more likely, the show introduces a new Q, or the show has a standoff at the end? Oh, this is really hard. I have no idea.
Do you want me to clarify reread any parts of it? There was a lot to wrap up in both of those.
There is a lot to wrap up, because in the first one, it's like the Q reveals himself and says, I just wanted to fuck with you and figure out who you were because I heard about you. And in the second one, it's like, I'm actually a thief. I think it's B.
It is B. Yay! Congratulations. Woo! I was almost hoping how convoluted that ending is would throw you off, because it's so
much.
All of it happens in the last
That's crazy.
minute of the episode, because the focus is on this planet and whether it's going to be, that's the moral quandary, whether they are going to vaporize everybody or not. And in the last minute, it's revealed that Rasmussen has been stealing everything. He killed a man from the future and managed to work out his time ship, then came here to steal technology to take back in time to reverse engineer and invent himself.
I mean, it's nuts, but I feel like it's, for some reason, them introducing a new Q feels even more of a stretch.
Interesting, because that also happens in another episode of Star Trek.
Does it really? Oh my God.
I took that as a bit of inspiration. They do introduce other Q.
Like, and also the temptation is that this one was all about the planet. So, like, your option that you wrote was great because it was all about the planet. It's like, no, I'm going to save you. It's not a big deal. Nice. Snappy, snappy, snappy. But in the B option, the one that it actually is, the planet stuff wraps up, and then it's mostly about how quirky this time thief is. So
Berlinghoff Rasmussen.
What a crazy name.
I want to show you a picture of him, actually.
Okay,
here we go.
Oh my God.
Berlinghoff Rasmussen.
Had you shown me this character from the start, I would have instantly picked B because he is so shady looking.
I nearly did. I nearly showed you a picture, but I was like, nah, this is on shady MFer. There's no way. Phil says, Sin, relationship that was never mentioned before becomes relevant to the plot cliche. Yes, that is actually, and I've just written a very similar sin in Something We're Sinning. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. It happens in the new-ish Creed movie that came out last year that is already up and about. It's going into the past to fish out something. But this, I kind of give a bit more grace because it feels like they planned this from the beginning. Like, it's not to create a movie. This is to explain the core of Mariner. Yeah, it's still a trope for sure.
Yep. But, I kind of like it. Personally, I kind of like it. I feel like sometimes that's just how it works. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I love it. In this case, it really works. Yeah, sometimes the sin works. Mariner's erratic behaviour now makes sense to me as long-term functional PTSD. I've known people who displayed that roller coaster of positive, negative mindsets. Kudos to Lower Decks. I buy it. Like, I love it.
Too.
It feels really fleshed out.
Well, and that's one of the things we've mentioned in previous episodes is like it really does feel like Mariner is going through some shit, but I really wanted the writers to give it the weight that it deserved by actually talking about it. And yeah, we're sinning that there's not therapy available, but potentially that will change. Maybe in the next episode she gets through a lot of shit and decides she needs to really go and like work through her trauma and get some application tools, because it's one thing to watch this episode and think that she had like a revelation and that she's moving through it, but without the tools to really understand your triggers, I fully expect someone like Mariner to have some pitfalls, because she is so quickly and instantly willing to throw herself into danger. The process of panic or like the trigger happening and then her reacting is just like a millisecond. She just instantly jumps in. So without really stopping in that moment and having someone to rein you in and say, okay, let's talk about what's happening and why you're making your decisions. And that way you have a moment to interject a new thought pattern. Like our brains are designed to create the most fast and quickest pathway to perform. Our muscles and our bodies are designed that way. Like repetitive motion, repetitive thought creates the systems that we use to stay on the rails of our life. And so like my thought patterns are going to be pretty ingrained at this point in my life from point A to point B. And to break that pattern down, it really requires you have to stop in the moment. Like if we were driving in a car, you have to physically stop, get out, take a deep breath, and look at the engine and look at the things. And even though you're like, I could just keep driving the same route that I always did, you've already decided, no, I can't take the same path any longer. And you have to make active choices in that moment to turn the wheel and take a different direction. It takes a lot of effort to change your patterns of thinking and to change the patterns in your body. Like it takes so much purposeful, intentional conversation within the confines of a place that's safe so that you can be raw and say things that are really, really strange. And like, it just takes so much effort. Can this animated series give it that kind of a weight? I don't know. It's such a light space, but I was really genuinely happy to see them give it some of the attention that it deserves.
And maybe that's why they aren't doing it with Dr. Migley-Moo, because if you literally do it with the therapist, it's too obvious, isn't it? It's like, oh, we've got the therapy part of the show, but if you do it with the Klingon, it's like, the Klingon is doing therapy. That's fun. And that's the best therapy is when you don't realize it's happening sometimes. Let's go into some silly sins as a nice juxtaposition. There was lots of Star Wars sins going on. Flyboy and David in particular, you seem to be seeing some Star Wars in my Star Trek. I lost count of Star Wars Easter eggs. Discount Jabba's Palace, discount Cantina, tiny hunting creature in the foreground, etc. Keep your wars out of my Trek. And David said the entrance to the comp station on Sherbal 5 was just an ATST with a few Ewoks short of being the entrance to the shield generator station on Endor. I like that you both saw the Star Wars in it. That's amazing. For me, the lines kind of blur. Like, it's like, who inspired who? Because at some point, every alien station looks the same to me.
Well, and I'm sure somebody who is like an aficionado of like sci-fi books would say, oh, it actually first appeared in this book.
Yeah, it was Harlan Ellison's. He did it first, back in 1902. Yeah.
Yeah.
Link has a question. How long has Mariner been in Starfleet? This has been really ambiguous. And today, I think we get the best indication of how long it's been, because it sounds like she was a year or two younger than Sito. And I think the Starfleet Academy is something like 4 or 5 years, I think, or 6 years, something like that. You go there when you're like 17 or 18. So then you'd be 24 by the time you graduate. That episode of TNG happened, I'm going to say 10 years ago. So I think Mariner is in her early 30s-ish, but has stayed an ensign for 7 years, or has been promoted, demoted. So I think she's been in Starfleet 6 or 7 years, is what I would guess. Maybe
the answer
a bit longer.
is 42.
Good. Yes, as always, as it should be. Sin from Zing. We never got to see the Cardassian lower decks. That's true. That would be... True. I would love that. Oh, I imagine they're rebuilding at the minute after the Dominion War. I don't think they have a lot of lower decks left. They're all kind of outer decks. Too soon?
What? Why is it too soon?
That was a Dominion War joke.
I don't get it. Oh, okay. Thursday will be Jeremy's third time to stream Spider-Man. And then on Friday, even though it is Veterans Day, Captain's Pod will be going live again for reviewing the finale. And that's for CinemaSins. But for Deneé personally, I do plan on going live on Monday evening over on my Twitch channel, which is at Deneé Says, DENEESAYS. So if you're on CinemaSins and you haven't subbed over to my Twitch channel, if you don't mind going over, you should get a notification when I go live on Monday. I will be streaming Red Dead Redemption 2 on a roleplay server called Wild RP, where I play a character. And I'm going to be streaming Sadie Jean, not Babs.
Sadie Jean.
So please don't come at me about that. Just Sadie Jean. I'm going to start off with some Sadie Jean. We're just going to ease back into the whole streaming thing. I'm so sorry, Ian. I'm sorry you have to put up with me. I'm so sorry. But also, you're welcome. In today's episode, shit goes sideways. I don't remember what I was talking about.